Today we are going to be talking about plural nouns.
This is what your notebook should look like after you have glued everything down. So you'll notice I glued down the plural nouns, and then I glued this along the side, so that way these tabs could be opened so I could write underneath them.
By the end of this video, the goal is that you will be able to form and use regular and irregular plural nouns. Alright, so to begin with, some of you might be wondering what plural nouns are. Plural nouns are when you have a noun that's talking about more than one thing. So looking at that first example, we see one apple. So we're only talking about one thing. But over here, right next to it, we see 3 apples. The word apples is plural because it ends with an S, so that shows that we're talking about more than one. So let's look at the second example. One boy. Boy tells me that there's just one, or 4 boys. The S at the end of boys tells me that there's more than one. Here are a few more examples. 1 book, 2 books. Next, I see a picture of frogs. Remember, these are frogs, so more than one. So I have the word frog, and then I have to add an S to show that there's more than one. The next picture, there are 2 cups. So cup, and then add an S for cups to mean more than one. On that long strip of paper, you will see that there are 4 different rules for plural nouns. We're going to start by looking at the first one. The first one says an S is added to the end of the word. This is just like the examples that we've just done together. Go ahead and open that first flap, and we are going to write down these 8 words as examples of this rule. Pause the video here so you have time to write these 8 examples down. Now that you're done with the first rule, you're ready for the second rule for plural nouns. This rule says, add an ES to words that end in an S, SH, CH, X, Z, and SS. All right, here are a few examples of this rule with plural nouns. Before you write any of these down, let's look at how these words are structured. So the word box is normally spelled B-O-X. But because I know that the rule, if a word ends in an X, is that I have to write ES at the end, it becomes boxes. Notice how that also happens in the word boxes. Dresses has the double S, and speeches and witches end in CH. There are also other words on here, like the word buzz, like how a bee buzzes, that we need to have ES on the end. I'm sure you can think of lots of other examples. Please write these 6 examples down in your notebook under that second flap. Remember to pause the video so you can write these down. All right, now you're ready for the third rule. If a word ends with the consonant Y, change the Y to an I and add ES. Before we start really looking at this rule, let's pause for a moment and remember what the word consonant means. Remember that there are 2 different types of letters, consonants and vowels. Vowels are letters like A, E, I, O, and U. Sometimes Y is also considered a vowel. Consonants are any other letter in the alphabet, so B, C, D, J, K, and X. So when you have a word that ends with a consonant and then a Y, you change the Y to the letter I and add an ES on the end. All right, so let's take a look at how this rule really works. I'm going to use the first word as an example. So the word pennies. Penny is spelled P-E-N-N-Y. But because N is a consonant and then it's followed by the letter Y, I need to change the Y to an I and then add ES. Let's try this with one more example. Let's try the word fried. When you go to a restaurant, you wouldn't order just one French fry, you would order more than one. You need fries. But because the word fry has a consonant and then a Y, I need to change the Y to an I and then add ES. Pause the video now to write down these 6 words under the third flap. All right, here is our last rule. Some words are irregular plurals. They either change spelling completely or do not change at all. All right, once you've opened up this tab, you're going to need to draw a line to separate this into 2 different sections. I would suggest that you have one side that has a little bit more room. For instance, if this was my box, I might want to draw a line right over here. As you can see, the left part is going to have 2 words on it, so you can have the single and the plural noun, whereas the right side only has 1 word. So go ahead and draw that line. Now that you have the line drawn, we're going to write some of these examples down. Remember, on the left side, you need to have the examples of the single and the plural. So 1 tooth, 2 teeth, 1 foot, 2 feet. Take a moment and copy the words down that are on the left side. Now that you have those words copied down, let's look at the words on the right side. So the words over here now. These words don't change between singular and plural. So you could say, I have 1 deer, or there are 2 deer. 1 fish, 2 fish, 1 sheep, 2 sheep. The word does not change. Here are some more examples of irregular plural nouns. If you have room under that 4th flap, you can write these words here. If not, on the next sheet of paper, write the title, Irregular Plural Nouns, and write these examples. You already know that the plural for tooth is teeth. So let's look at these other 3, which you might already know. The plural for goose is geese. The plural for child is children. And the plural for person is people. Pause the video here so you can take time to write these 4 down. All right, we are going to look at a few more irregular plural nouns. So you'll notice that 4 of these are filled in because we've already done them. There is another one on here that we have already done under that 4th flap. The word man would become men. All right, so let's start with the word knife. The word knife becomes knives. So the F changes to a V, and then we add an S to the end of the word. Next, let's look at the word wishes. If you go back to that 2nd tab, you should be able to figure out how to spell the word wishes. You just need to add an ES to the end of the word. Wishes. All right, now let's look at the word story. So if you look at the 3rd tab, you should be able to figure out how to spell this word. Stories. We changed the Y to an I and added ES because a consonant came before the letter Y. All right, now let's look at the word leaf. Leaf is going to be very similar to how we did knife. So leaf needs to look like this. We changed the F to a V and then added ES. Can you figure out how we would spell wolves? Wolves, we changed the F to a V and once again added ES. Make sure you pause the video here so you can write down these examples in your notebook.